In this lecture, we're going to be unwrapping a cylinder. Finally, something a little different than a cube. So I'm going to go ahead and create a cylinder, and I'm going to show you two methods here. The first method is going to be a failure. We're going to use the cylinder projection. Now that seems like the most intuitive thing to do, but I'm going to show you why that really should be kind of just skipped. And then we're going to actually use the marked seam method to produce a proper unwrapped cylinder. So let's jump over to the UV editing window and get started. Go to edit mode, and first of all, if I just use the cylinder projection just like this, you'll see something like this happen. And just to be fair, there is a worksheet for this, and you can kind of go through here and try to figure out how to make this work using different variations of this and that. And you probably could find something to get yourself a little closer. I mean, this looks okay, but I'm just going to save you the trouble and say, look, you're probably not going to find the right combination here because it just, as far as I can tell, it doesn't exist. You're going to have problems with this. The automatic projection method for creating a cylinder just doesn't work. I mean, it probably has practical applications, but this is not what you would want to use this tool for. So let's go ahead and try something different. I guess before we move on, let's just be a little bit more fair about this and go to a front ortho view and see if this does us any more justice. Maybe what we could do is unselect the top and the bottom, go to a front view, and then do a cylinder projection. And again, you're going to have the same kind of problems. Maybe a scale to bounds will keep everything within the grid. And if I go to the top, maybe do a top view and do another cylinder projection, it'll give me, well, that, which doesn't really look right. And again, you could play around with this stuff and you might get lucky and actually find the right combination, but really what you want to do here is a project from view, and you end up with a circle, and then the bottom, same kind of thing, another project from view, and then if you select all, you'd end up with something like this, but it's still not really what you're looking for. I think this is just got problems, okay? Let's try something else. So instead of using a cylinder projection, what are our other options? So we know we could try project from view, but then we'd have to assemble all this stuff. How about just marking the seams? So we've already talked about this. Let's go to edge selection, choose this loop right here, so shift right click, and also shift alt right click on that, so we have two loops selected. And let's go to the back ortho, not front but back, and shift right click on the backmost edge, that one right there. Okay, once you have all of this selected, so again, that's just the backmost edge and the two circular loops, go ahead and Control E and mark seam. Select all and then hit U and then U again, or if you prefer, just click on unwrap. Notice how everything unwrapped perfectly? Well, using this method, this marking seams first and then unwrapping, you're going to get the best results from my experience. Now, if you want to, go ahead and create a margin of 0.1 before you do anything else, and that will give you a nice little even margin around all the edges and in between all the objects and everything. That's pretty much it. So this is all you really need to do to unwrap a cylinder. I'm going to go ahead and throw some graphics on here just to kind of demonstrate that this is working. So let's go ahead and make our UV layer. So export UV layout. So let's go ahead and rename it to cylinder UV and export. Open up Photoshop. I'm going to drag that UV layer right into Photoshop, rename it right off the bat, create my color layer, put the color layer underneath the UV. Don't forget to name that as well. Let's go ahead and select the neutral color, kind of a neutral green. And we'll fill this whole thing in with green. And actually, I'm thinking maybe this is going to end up looking kind of like a soup can or something. So maybe I'll use like a neutral gray color instead. Nothing wrong with that. And I think what I'll do is let's see, I'll use a marquee, and I'll just eyeballing this, but something like this. I'm going to change the color to something a little, I don't know, lighter or darker. I'm going to go darker. Just fill that in like that. Let's use this marquee tool here, circle, I guess. And I'm just going to fill this in with a darker color as well. You don't have to do this. This is just kind of demonstrating that there's some texture on here. And since I cut this in the very back, if I can find the middle of this, I'll be able to center some kind of logo or something like that on here. I'm going to do this in a separate layer. And I think all I'm going to do is just put some letter or something on here. We'll use that R again. If I put it in the middle, it should be fine. Maybe I'll drop a little color over that. So let's see. I'll use this, center it in there, and maybe make it like, we'll use that neutral green, something like this. That's probably good enough. Don't forget to turn off your UV. And let's go ahead and save this as a ping. So let's call it cylinder diffuse. I'm going to leave this open because chances are I'm going to end up editing it some more. Back to Blender, and let's open that. Take a look at it over here in 3D mode with texture on, and this is basically what we got so far anyway. Here's the front view, and you can see the R is centered on there. I would fine-tune this. You can see probably going to want to make that much smaller. Maybe put an edge around there. And this isn't that hard to do. Best thing to do is keep Photoshop and Blender open at the same time and just go back and forth like this. So what I'm going to do is use the brush on the color layer. Maybe add another layer, and we'll call this lines or something like that. I'm going to select this color gray and make it a little lighter, something like that. And I'll create my lines like so. I wasn't happy with the size of this marquee, so I'm just going to bring that down in size. And maybe the same thing with the R. I think I'm going to make a smaller R. Let's go ahead and save that with the UV layer turned off and see how that comes out. Save as, ping, cylinder diffuse, save, yes, okay. Back to Blender. Don't forget you need to reload that, so I can just go over here and hit open, and you could see that lighter color in there. Kind of makes a little bit of a difference. You can see that edge. Note that you cannot see the seam in the back because the color is so general, you know, but this looks a lot better. So go ahead and practice this. See what you can do with a cylinder. When you come back, we'll get started by unwrapping a sphere. Okay? Good luck.